Seminole Nation. Welcome into another special episode of the Renegade Rundown. As always, my beautiful co-host, Jen Santee, aka Jen Santee 1890 on X. You know what to do. Go follow it up. She watches all those other crazy podcasts, so we don't have to. But today's special guest right next to me is my guy, Lamarcus Brutus, aka Bebo42. You can find him on X. He's out here teaching middle school, coaching high school. We're super excited to get him on here. Here's a guy who with a national championship ring. A lot of people don't realize he started right there next to Derwin James in 2015. All ACC, honorable mention. Super excited to have you on here, man. How's it going today? Thanks for joining us.
Everything's going good. Thank you both for having me. I'm definitely thankful for the opportunity to sit down and talk with y'all.
We're so excited. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So excited.
We'll start with the fun stuff. We talked a little bit off air about how up to date we are on the ACC stuff and recruiting and stuff. But you were here for kind of when Jimbo Fisher's era took off. You got here, I believe, probably the best class to date when you signed in that class and came in. All these just studs around you. You stayed for 4 years. That was pretty awesome as a sophomore to go win a national championship and then a playoff as a junior. And then, like I said, start next to a guy like Derwin your senior year. How awesome was that? And just how awesome is it, just to be a Seminole kind of for life after spending 4 years in Tallahassee?
I loved it. I mean, like you say, I came in 2011, and at that time we had the number one recruiting class in the nation. And there's guys that I still talk to today. Tyler Hunter, who was one of the guys that I came in with, we were in each other's wedding, right? So like we have that type of relationship. Keelan Smith, who I went to high school with, James Water, Timmy Jernigan, Arrington Jenkins, like all those guys that we've kind of built that strong bond with. Because like my freshman year, a lot of us redshirted as well. So we spent a lot of time together, like when the team traveled or when we weren't doing football activities. So it was definitely a special moment. It was Jimbo's second year as a head coach. And then we had like a lot of guys who had been there, who seen how Florida State was kind of before we got there, and then just watching that progression and being part of No Nation forever is something that like you can never take away from us.
Facts, man. As far as my first question, as far as kind of your time there, as we let the people file in here and join us again, we got Lamarcus Brutus, Florida State defensive back in here with us. Mark Stoops is a name that a lot of people kind of forget. He was at Florida State for several years there. You were part of some good defenses for 2 years there with him. And now you look at the top 10 kind of coaches in the nation. Florida State's got Mike Norvell squarely up there, tied at number 5 for $10 million a year. But up on that screen is Mark Stoops, man. What was it like spending some time with him, I guess, and what was that transition like going from Stoops and, that kind of cover 2 type defense to Jeremy Pruitt and the Alabama style 3-4 and everything your last 2 years? You guess you got 2 and 2.
Yeah. So it was good. So actually James Coley originally started recruiting our area. So when I was in high school, James Coley, who was there, and then Stoops came in the picture and really kind of brought it home. Like it was me, it was Keelan Smith, it was Jeff Luke, a name that some Florida State fans will remember.
Oh,
but
yeah.
we all went to high school together, so we all had that close bond. And then when Stoops would come down, he would kind of recruit all of us. I learned the defense underneath Stoops, but I was a younger guy. I redshirted my first year underneath Stoops. And then we had guys like Terrence Parks, LaMarcus Joyner, Terrence Brooks, all those older guys who were kind of obviously playing at the time. So I wouldn't consider myself like completely involved in learning that defense. I knew it, but I also redshirted and I understood like what my chances were realistically. But I would definitely say like transitioning over to Coach Pruitt, I would probably say that really enhanced like my football knowledge. So like when underneath Coach Stoops, it was a fairly simple-ish defense, cover 4, cover 2, kind of like that man match defense. But when Coach Stoops came over and he brought that fire zone defense, and you having to being 3, 4, 5 adjustments to every single coverage that you call based off of motion, based off of formation, like that really enhanced my football knowledge. So I really do credit like a lot of my football knowledge to like learning that defense.
Absolutely, man. Um, so many things I'd like to ask you, man. It's like, do you have a favorite kind of memory of that national championship season? We've been lucky. We've had several people in here. We've had Carlos Williams in here, Kenny Shaw. So that's one we like to ask everybody as far as that 2020 or 2023, 2013 run to a national championship. Is there one memory that just sticks out in your head?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that season, like for me, a lot of guys would, be able to say like, oh, I knew we were gonna win it. I think if you look at the names on the roster, because it's like any given Saturday, anybody can win a football game. I wouldn't say that you could just look at the names on the roster and say, yeah, this is a national championship team. I think we had a lot of hard-nosed guys who just put their face down and just grind it. I mean, we had great leadership. Like I said, like Telma Smith is a name that always comes up, and Terrence Brooks, and even like Carlos
Super
Williams.
underrated. Yeah.
Yeah, Carlos Williams is my guy.
Oh
He's
yeah.
my brother. So having guys that had that leadership, one thing that really set us apart, I would say it was a player ran team. So like it didn't take for the coaches to get on us and make corrections or hold each other accountable. The players did that themselves. And one of the main things we did, we had like the social media ban. Like nobody, it was like an agreement that like
Dude,
we're
I missed
eliminating
that.
all the clutter. Yeah, we're eliminating all the clutter. We're just gonna grind. Which is like nobody outside of this rooms matters. And then I would say like obviously that year Clemson was really good. And then when we went into Death Valley, and I believe it was Lamarcus Joyner that had that strip, and Mario Edwards scooped it up. Once that happened, I was like, we're a pretty good team.
Man,
Oh
y'all
my God.
bull rush then. That was oof. Every Florida
Once
State
they-
fan just remembers that one. I couldn't imagine being on the field for that.
Yeah.
So
and then
I have to admit something here. The Florida State Clemson game is something I watch either on my birthday or every Mother's Day, and everybody just has to let me watch it. I rewatch it. It's still on my DVR. It's on a YouTube that I keep on my watch list. I will sit down and rewatch that game because it makes me happy.
Yeah,
And
it's definitely a special moment. Like I personally
love
wasn't
that
on the
game.
field, but that right there was like that click. Like we can do it. And then getting into the game, getting into the national championship game, and being down to Auburn with 21-3, I think it was. It wasn't that moment like, oh man, like we're gonna lose this game. It was like, we haven't played our best football,
Yep.
and we still got a whole nother half to play. And then once we came back, it was one of those like, I can't believe this is really happening. Because you have a lot of great guys, like Hall of Fame football players in the NFL in college, that's never won a national championship.
For sure.
So it's like once you touch that gold, it's something like when you sit back and really think about it, something that you don't take for granted, because not a lot of guys can say they've done that at that level.
It's pretty small fraternity of guys. I'm glad you went there, because this is another one, because we've got a lot of different angles of this thing. And you brought it up, being down 21-3, all of a sudden there in the second half of the third quarter, all of a sudden these towels come out. And all of a sudden the offense is running. I know, you're on the field, or I guess you could have had a pretty good a view of that. Did you get a view of that, and what was it like in real time realizing that?
I didn't really think about it. Like offense and defense is pretty separated, I would say.
Yeah.
Like offensive benches over on one side, defensive benches over on the other side. And the game is going so fast and you're processing so much, you don't really have time to think about like anything on the outside. And I'm not coming at the outside, but like in real time, I didn't notice like, hey, our offense isn't clicking. Now we're putting towels up. Now we're clicking. Like I didn't process that until after the fact and realize like, the people say that the signals and, Coach Craig and everything like that. I don't know the real story. I don't know how it really goes, but I'm glad it worked out for us.
It was awesome, man. I know you had to get pumped up after that when they converted that fourth down too. When Jimbo goes for that, I mean, for you to be able to stay off the defense, to be able to stay off the field, and they go down and score. So many twists and turns in that game. I guess before we move on, is there a particular, is there a certain moment of the national championship game, another story you want to share about it?
Well, again, I was a young guy, sophomore, so I wasn't that season. I was just more so like special teams. But I wholeheartedly believe that if Carlos doesn't get that fourth down conversion, we don't win that game. Like I
I
think
agree.
like that was like the
Yep.
spark that we needed. It was a gutsy call. I mean, it went to obviously one of our best athletes, but I'm like if he doesn't get that, I feel like the momentum goes downhill. But like him getting that play and gave us that momentum, like that's the drive that we needed. And I think it's a very and off like Kermit's kickoff return. Like again, it's one of those
Oof.
like you see it happening and you're like, oh man, this is really happening. Like again, I mean, they talk about kick return all the time, but that punt return, I feel like is an underrated play that doesn't really get brought up like a whole lot.
Spear
Yeah.
Addicts Media comes through with off the top rope with a question. Sorry, Jen, you can get your
Oh,
question
you're
next.
fine.
He was saying, did you ever get to lay out Dalvin Cook in practice? Did you ever get to square him up? You got 2 years there.
We do square up, but I would definitely say there was never like any like laying out like one, you don't really see nobody really gets to lay Dalvin out, right? You'd be lucky to get a good square hit on him. But we also like didn't go other than like camp and maybe some scrimmages like in the spring. We never really went like live on live. Like when we go good on good, it's more so like thud in between the tackle. Like the pads should be making noise, but we're not bringing guys to the ground.
Yeah, makes sense. And it's even more now these days, but Jimbo's always been on the kind of forefront. We always heard that a lot of the physicality, if it went down, it would be situational or on goal line, those go to goal situations. But Jen, did you have a question? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Yeah,
off.
no, you're fine. You're fine. I was just asking, did they actually, when you guys were getting ready for this game and everything, did they go over the fact that Florida State was part of the first BCS game and then part of the last BCS game? So they won the first BCS championship and won the last BCS championship. Was that something that they talked to you guys about? Because that's just so weird that that's the way it happened. It really is.
Yeah, not that I vividly remember. I do remember being the last one though. I do remember
Yep.
that being like we're the last ones that's gonna do it before we switch over to
Yep.
this playoff format. But I didn't know I don't vividly remember them talking about like being the first and being the last.
Yeah. That's so weird. That's just it's so lucky that that's the way it happened. I mean, how in the world does that ever happen as far as odds are concerned? And yes, I do like to gamble, guys. So don't judge me. Don't judge me. But I'm just saying the odds for that is just wild. And the fact that, that you guys won it and everything, that was such a great game. And I agree with you. I think that the fourth down conversion is what really did it. But I also think PJ Williams' interception there in that game. I mean, when he intercepted that ball, I was like, oh no. And Big Bad Chad's touchdown. So I've got a couple there. Big Bad Chad. That touchdown there. Yes. I just loved it. Yes, the green catch. Everybody's saying, I mean, there's so many, but like there was just some moments. I think like you said, I think it was that fourth down conversion. I really, when I saw that, I feel like that was the moment I was like, okay, we're back in this. We can do this. No big deal. I was getting I live in SEC country. I live in Memphis. I live around so many Tennessee fans, and they all cheer for their conference teams, which is insane to me. I would never cheer for a rival. I don't understand this concept ever. It's not my bag.
I'm with you.
That would be like me sitting here going to go Miami. That's never going to happen. It's never, ever going. Miami played Tennessee. I did cheer for Miami that time though, because I hated dealing with the Tennessee fans. And then they lost. Miami lost. So y'all just screwed that up. So, but yeah, I was getting so many text messages, so many everything. And that actually, it was after that play, that fourth down conversion, the text stopped. I didn't get any more. I didn't get one more. And I was married at the time. I had friends calling my ex-husband because like after that happened, all the texts stopped. Florida State wins, at the end of the game. I have a rule. I do not talk shit during games. I don't talk shit during opposing teams. I don't do any of that because it's karma, right? So after the game, I got on I was typing. Do you know they tattled on me to my ex-husband? That I was being mean. That I was
unreal.
You bring up when you mention like PJ's interception and Chad's touchdown, like and Rashad's catch. Like that's another one where it's like because I feel like the DB could have made a play, on that ball, but with the way it slipped through and he did it, and it was another crazy play. It was just meant for us. It was meant for us to. It was meant for us to win that game.
Yes, it really was. It really was, and also the missed horse collar on Rashad Green, which was.
Yeah.
It was so egregious that even Kirk Herbstreit had to be like, what's going on here? Are we just not going to call any sort of penalty? It was so crazy. It was such a weird, I said it, Mike, I gotcha. It was such a weird game because and I'm not going to say they called it differently on both sides. It did feel that way a little bit. But I think we got a little lucky playing Auburn. And I say this in a way because, the SEC isn't protecting Auburn the way they would like a Georgia or an Alabama, right? So those officials, I feel like it was such a close game that if that had been an Alabama team, there's no way that the pass interference gets called in the end zone in order to set that up for Kelvin Benjamin. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And even though it was egregious, I'm just saying. That was my thoughts. That was my thoughts on that. So,
did you have a question for Lamarcus Brutus? All conference DB. We'll get Gianni's. Who did he learn from more at DB, PJ or Darby?
I would say I was a little bit different. So I played safety, and both PJ and Darby played corner. So our roles were a little bit different. But we all used to put in a lot of work together. I would probably say PJ more specifically. Only he was my roommate at one point, so we spent more time together than me and Darby did. But we were different. We were at different positions. One guy that I really learned from, actually, so Tyler Hunter. He played fairly early in our career. And then when he got hurt and he went down with a neck injury.
Hated that, man.
Yeah. So when he went down with that neck injury, he became like a coach. Like he literally became, because he couldn't play. And then he would just watch film and watch film and watch film and watch film. And then he would help guys out like me and like Nate Andrews and like Derwin, like those younger guys. Even though we were the same class, he really learned it. And then me being with him, like he would explain it. So I would probably say probably Tyler Hunter was one of the guys that I learned probably the most from defensively, other than like the coaches.
Yeah, Tyler Hunter, man, if he hadn't went down with that injury, man, he was an absolute beast, and he came back and played some good time after that. So love hearing good things about him. We had a comment in here, and it's a good point. Jim was talking about, where she was at during that game. And I just remember wanting Bama so bad as a fan. I know you guys as players, after seeing all that, and we'll get into kind of where things are going in your ACC championships and stuff. But while we're here, I just had to know about that, man. Were y'all disappointed, not getting Auburn? Do you think y'all would have had a better matchup there or what?
I don't think it really mattered. We just obviously we wanted to be in the game because I think that's when the BCS rankings were coming out and they had us all like in the team meeting room and try to figure out who's what. But we just wanted to be in the game. I feel like we played an earlier game that day, so we always travel back after the games, like no matter what time, other than bowl games. I feel like we had maybe an early game that Saturday, and they played that night or something like that, and we had just got back to the house. It was when I was living with PJ. And we turned the TV on. We saw like the kick return, or it was something along those lines. Like it was like crazy.
The kick six,
yeah. The kick six. And it's funny. So Trey Mason, who was their starting running back at the time, we played in an all-star game together out of high school. So we were actually pretty cool. And every now and then, it brings me to that question.
Perfect timing.
So every now and then, Trey Mason and like some of his teammates will come over to Tallahassee. Like they were just like cool with a lot of us. A lot of guys knew each other like outside of like college football. And like he would say like, oh, we'll see y'all, like we're gonna beat Bama. And did he really know? No, but they had the confidence. But when he did that, and I knew him out like before college, but when he did that Heisman polls, I would definitely say like we all noticed. And he was definitely taking a shot, and we knew what it was. But yeah, we noticed it during the game.
Absolutely, man. And we talked about it. You were there for 4 years. I'm trying to think. Y'all were what, 3 for 4 on ACC championships. You've never lost to Miami. Only lost to Florida once.
Twice. I think we lost I was there from 2011 to 2015. I want to say we lost twice. Never lost to Miami. I want to say we lost to Florida twice, or I lost to Florida twice.
Huh?
Y'all
I think
lost
just
in
once in 2012.
yeah, you lost in 2012.
I think y'all won in
No,
11, right?
2011 was the no, they did. They lost 2011 and 2012.
Yeah.
I guess
And then
that's
we
selective
won.
thinking right there.
And we won 13, 14, 15.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
right.
2012 was Bjorn Werner game.
Yeah, EJ took
Bjorn
a
Warner.
big knock there in
Yeah.
the third quarter was the difference in that one. But yeah,
Yep.
Bjorn
That
was
was
that
it.
dude, man.
Bjorn
Oh man,
You
Warner.
got any
he's so
good
good.
Bjorn
He
stories?
is so good.
He was one of the older guys, but he was a quiet guy. Really cool though. Now that's when we had Bjorn Warner, Brandon Jenkins, Tank
Oh
Carradine,
man.
Everett Dawkins. That's when we had like Jacoby McDaniel, like our D line. Like we had all of those guys. And again, me being a younger guy, I hung with the younger guys. But I mean, all the guys that I was around was just like real cool. The leadership, like I never had any issues with any teammates in my time, like at Florida State.
That's awesome, man. It really was a brotherhood during that time. It was something special, I'm sure, for you guys, and as fans, it was something special too. Having
mean,
all those ace. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, how awesome was Jameis to be around, and is he still as awesome to be around?
Yeah, it's actually funny. So because people ask all the time, the same conversation comes up: the crab legs and the goop. Like when you see Jameis, like what you see is what you get. So it's not like
Mhm.
he's doing anything extra for attention, or it's not like he's holding anything back. Like what you see is what you get, right? No teammate has ever had any complaints about Jameis. Like one of the
No.
nicer guys I've been around. I feel like he gets a bad rap because everybody's like all like eyes on Jameis. Like he couldn't live a normal life. Like no matter what we did outside of football, we could not live a normal life. But I think he gets a bad rap. But he's a real cool dude. Actually, when I went back for the national championship reunion, we all went back, and a lot of guys you see now, like everybody's kind of mellowed out. Obviously, we're older, we're mature, we're fathers, we're husbands. So yes, he's a little bit different. It's funny seeing like a lot of guys mellowed out. Like we're all more mature, we're older. But what you see is what you get. I mean, the same guy that we saw in the locker room, it's the same guy that everybody sees now, right? The leadership, the speeches, the motivational speeches that he gives, like that's just him. He impacts the people around him in a positive way.
Yeah, he's
I know
that
you
dude, man.
said that Tyler Hunter was a player, on defense that, really helped you out and made you better. Was there a player during practice on offense that made you step up during practice?
I would always once I became like one of the more prominent players, like getting more playing time starting, I would go against guys like Travis Rudolph, Bobo Wilson, like Kermit, like those are guys that I was consider myself like we pushed each other, we worked, we had those competitions in practice. So I'll probably give it to those guys because I had to build my A game and they had to be on theirs. And like that's kind of how it was. Like we were all working to make each other better. I mean, you obviously go against the Kenny Shaws and the Rashad Greeds and the Kelvin Benjamins and all those guys, but I kind of equate them being to like the classes before me because I wasn't really like playing that much. I was a scout team guy, just kind of doing what I can for the team. But once I became like making an impact on the team more, I would say like Travis Rudolph, Kermit, Bobo, like all of those guys.
Well, I mean, I did have one more thing I just wanted to ask that I don't think we had gone over yet, but George had mentioned Stoops, Mike Stoops or Mark Stoops. So how did you pay attention at all? I mean, when Jimbo was let go at Texas A&M, Mark Stoops was apparently, and not apparently, signed or about to sign on to be the new head coach at Texas A&M. And then the fans like freaked out. And then he decided to stay at Kentucky. How would that have felt to have Jimbo be replaced by Stoops? That would have been a little weird.
For me, it wouldn't have been any different. Like
Yeah.
the college football game and the recruiting game and the coach, like it's a big coaching circle or tree. It's like a revolving door. it wouldn't make any difference to me. Like when I watch college athletics, like I love football, so I watch football. I like even if Florida State's not playing, but like Florida State takes priority, and then people that I have a relationship with from Florida State. So I'll watch Texas A&M because of Jimbo, or because he had like Sean McGuire as a GA, Jeremy Curry as a GA, Rashad Green as a GA. Like, because those guys are there and other coaches are there, I'll watch for them. Or like I'll watch a Kentucky game because I know Stoops recruited me. But when it comes to like the news of these other things, like I had no idea Stoops was even being considered for Texas A&M.
Oh, okay.
I kind of just watch. Like
Yeah.
I get Florida State news, and then everything else. Like if I hear it, and then that's really about it.
Yeah, that was kind of wild because, everybody thought it was Mike Elko from the beginning, and it turns out it was Mike Elko. But I guess Texas A&M decided to go a different way, and they offered it to Stoops, who accepted everything was going that way, and then he decided to stay at Kentucky because of some sort of George. Do you there was like a revolt at Texas A&M over this, right?
I don't know. You got me on something I have no clue about. We try to stick it to FSU.
No, I know. I guess it was just weird for me because I was just asking if, because it was Stoops with Jimbo, replacing Jimbo. That just seems a little, kind of a bring it back to Florida State scenario. But yeah. Did you have like a favorite, not a game. I'm not talking about 2013, but like a game that you love to go to on the road. Did you have like a destination that you love to go play on the road?
That I would love. So I enjoyed seeing the different stadiums, like the historic stadiums. I can say like I did enjoy Death Valley at Clemson, right? The running down the hill and the release of the balloons, and I mean I did enjoy it. Like I enjoyed seeing that because one of those like atmospheres, like you just love a good college football atmosphere. I mean, obviously my favorite stadium to ever play in is Doak Campbell Stadium. I mean, the support from the fans and seeing the chop going on and just hearing the war chant is like something that you have to experience. Like it's one of those things you just like have to be there to experience because like the words don't describe it. Like when we have those, especially those night games. I mean, I actually remember, I want to say it was my sophomore year. We played Clemson. No, we played Oklahoma. We played Oklahoma back when they had like Kenny Stills, and it was a big game for us.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I couldn't hear the person next to me. Like I could not. It was like that loud. It was like one of the loudest games. It was like one of the loudest games I've ever been to.
To date, legitimately.
To date. I mean, running out of the tunnel and seeing like the cameras flashing everywhere was like one of those like moments where you just like, man, this is really what it is.
I mean, I kind of agree with you. I think that Oklahoma game at Doak was so loud. It was so incredible. I don't think the only thing I could ever think that was close to it was that Notre Dame game.
Oh, yeah, that was another one.
I think that was the only one that was closest to it in 2014, maybe. Was that it? Yeah. That was probably the closest I could see as loud.
Yeah, I agree. That was another crazy one, especially when it got late in the game.
Absolutely.
That ending. Woo, Lord, that was loud. That was loud. Woo. Sorry, George, you go ahead.
Spiritix Media says, who is your favorite roommate at FSU?
Ooh,
my favorite roommate, because we're boys, he was in my wedding. We went to high school together. Keelan Smith. That's my best friend. It's my brother. So when I first got to Florida State, I think we did like the first maybe year or two together. When we were living on campus, and then once we moved off campus, that's when like I became roommates with PJ. But by default, because that's my boy, I'm going to go with Keelan Smith.
He was that dude. People forget about Keelan Smith. They forget about Nick Wasom. These were some just straight dogs, that just were a victim of playing around a bunch of like guys who were getting fitted for golden jackets and Jalen Ramsey. And you know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe not Darby getting a gold jacket, but he's got 5 or 6 Pro Bowls, like Super Bowls. Like, those are just some tough teams to be on.
Yeah, and it's tough when you go through 3 different defensive coordinators in your 5 years there. I mean, starting off with Stoops and then going with Pruitt and then with Kelly. sometimes guys bring in their guys, and you kind of get lost in the shuffle. And it's unfortunate. That's just like the reality of it.
And that brings us kind of this day and age, how hard would it have been to keep that team together? 2012, after missing out, how many guys would have been gone off that team somewhere else? And even after 2013, brings you into a whole different age. And you talked about Doak Campbell and what it was like playing there. That's one of the topics, so we got to get your opinion on it. As much as like me and Jim, we're all for it. We can't wait for that thing to get finished. It's going to look amazing, but it's got to hurt your soul a little bit just seeing that thing how it is right now on that
Yeah,
Earth shot.
I actually came across a picture the other day, just like I think scrolling on X, and I see they've started a renovation, and like part of it is like gone. And even going back for the national championship reunion and seeing like the Champions Club, like it's great because you want to keep up with the times and you want to have the nice things, but like it's such a historic stadium that I wish it was just kind of one of those things where it just you can keep it the same. But I also understand it. Like I also understand that all these new stadiums are being built and all these renovations. Like you got to keep up. You're doing what you believe is best, like for the school, for the fans, and for the experience. But it's just something about like the historic Doak Campbell Stadium with the brick all around that you just love.
Facts. I'd love to get my hands on one of those bricks. If they sell
yeah.
those, that would be nice. I think there's a chance that the boosters might have to get those. But we brought up, I was mentioning earlier about your ACC championships. And that's kind of one of the biggest news stories out there. You have to live under a rock if you haven't seen what's going on. FSU is on the verge of getting out. It's looking, more and more and more before we get into the kind of specifics of it. How do you feel about that? Do you have kind of mixed emotions about knowing that after this year you may never see these ACC matchups, or are you just pumped to see your alma mater get their butt over to the Big Ten?
I watch Florida State. I mean, it doesn't matter who we play. Like, I haven't. I'm sure there's benefits of being in these different conferences, and I know the SEC is money and like the viewership and the ESPN and all of that. So I'm sure there are benefits that I don't even look into. But I just specifically, for me, it doesn't matter who Florida State plays. Right? It just kind of like I just want to see them play football. Like I want them to be happy if the president and the boosters and everyone says like we're not doing well in the ACC and we need to leave, then I'm all for it. I'm on board. But it's tough. I think that we have the ACC championship game and we have a whole lot of them. And we got one this year, which as an alumni, like it's great to see your team like being victorious and getting those ACC championships because again, something that you don't take for granted. And I think that we were so used to winning. We got used to winning at Florida State, and like not like making a bowl game for us was like second nature. It wasn't even like a question. It was just kind of like, you go to the bowl
40
game.
years.
There was never a doubt that you don't go to a bowl game. So as long as we can keep winning and we can be successful and we can continue to get recruits and we can keep Coach Norvell, like I'm all for it. It really don't matter what conference we go into.
Now, go ahead.
I think you were about to ask the same thing I was going to. Have you met Coach Norvell?
Yeah, so I met him in person for the first time at the national championship reunion. I mean, he was very personable. I actually was, I think the reunion was on Saturday. I think I got in Friday night. Excuse me. So Saturday morning, I actually went to the stadium. This is before like we were required to be there. I went to the stadium. And got it. So some of the athletic trainers like Jerry Latimer, like he's still there from when I was there. Some of the student trainers, Laura, who's does other sports, was a student trainer when I was there. One of the equipment guys that my wife actually knows. So like got to meet people kind of off record. And then when we got around as a team, like he interacted and he mingled with us and he spoke to us individually. He kind of addressed like, listen, like this is a legacy. Like I want this to be home for you forever. And I want you to always feel the need to come back to practice, to come to games, when the doors are always open. He was like, and he was very adamant about having like an open door policy. And then even like getting us to be intertwined with the players. Like we did, you see the pregame walk. We even did a walk that he wasn't a part of because he was like, I didn't put on a Florida State jersey I want you all to understand like how special this is. You walk in this field with these brothers because we're all tied together forever. For no matter what year you played at Florida State, like, once you're like, if you're walking through the airport, no matter where you are, if you see garnet and gold and you see the FSU logo and the similar, like, it's kind of one of those things like, I wonder how they're affiliated. Is it a former player? Are they a recruit? Do they work there? Did they go to school there? So it's like one of those things you notice and you're tied to these people forever. So yes, having like meeting him and like seeing the leadership and hearing him talk and address the team and address the players and the alumni from there, like I think we are in good hands. I wholeheartedly believe that. I think he's in it for the right reasons. I feel like, even talking to Coach Odell, who was there when I was there, I think I think if it wasn't as good as it seems, like Odell would have been done. I think he loves Florida State. I think there's no doubt about that. He loves Florida State. He loves the players. And I think if he did not have faith into what is being built around there, like he has no reason to stay in. So I think you can kind of look at that and be like, if he's still around because he loves it, then like we're in good hands.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot around here, and we were a little, we criticized him a little bit for not shaking up the staff because the previous year you get rid of Marcus Woodson, you bring in Patrick Surtain, and what happens? He's like the best recruiter, best coach at the position in the entire country in his very first year. So it's like, why not? But I'll tell you what, you look around the country with the portal and all these things going on, all these coaches leaving everywhere, all of a sudden continuity is at a premium, and him and Michael Alford and Derek Ray getting together to make that decision or however it goes. Big time. And I'm wondering if you've got to meet Michael Alford as well.
I didn't. My time, like when we got there, you see the coaches, you shake hand. Coach Dugans, obviously, he's a legend, so you know who he is,
right?
Regardless. And then Coach Norvell, then just kind of hanging around Odell and just seeing the other staff members. Like my time when we were there, it was catching up with a lot of players, a lot of my teammates who I haven't seen in, 10 years, 10, 11, 12 years, like since I was in college. So a lot of times spending with those guys and catching up and kind of mingling. So didn't get to meet every single coach, but pregame on the sideline, during the game on the sideline. And then also like when they're doing their thing, you kind of just back up and you kind of just watch and you admire it and you just take it in.
Facts. What was I about to say? Do you have a question, Jen, before we move on to the next topic?
Well, I always have questions.
Obviously.
Yeah, like how was it though watching? Okay, I know Jimbo was your coach, and then Willie Taggart came in, and then Mike Norvell comes in, and watching just the resurgence for Florida State because obviously had a couple bad years. Nowhere close to what Miami has had, but that's fine. They don't believe that, but that's
they've had a few bad decades.
I've got to throw that in there because otherwise I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. I have to get my little dig in. But again, how was that? Like just watching it come back, and is that something that a former player actually thinks about? Do you pay attention, or is that just cool to watch?
Yeah, you definitely you take pride. You take pride in guarding the goal, right? A lot of being at Florida State, you're in your prime year. So getting there when you're 17 and 18, leaving when you're 22, 23, like you become a man in college. So the people that you're around, the leadership that you have around you, like they're going to teach you like characteristics and skills that's going to make you successful for years after college. So like you build that bond and that brothership, that brotherhood of guys that are there. And then being a part of that program where you have guys who put in blood, sweat, and tears, and you help build it. Seeing it go down here, because when I first got there, our first year was the Champs Bowl, which is not, again, a bowl game is great to have at the end of the season, but it's not one of the like prestigious bowls games you look to play in at the end of the season. Like we didn't have the indoor facility, we didn't have the renovated locker rooms. Like we had the wooden lockers that was there. And then once you win those games and you play in the Orange Bowl the following year, and then you play in the national championship the year after that, and you get in the indoor facility, and you're getting the new locker rooms, and then even making it to the Rose Bowl, and then the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Like those are all big bowl games, and again, it comes so second nature. So like to see it go downhill was like heartbreaking. And it was like I can't believe we were at the top. Like we're at the top. Like everybody wanted to be with us. Everybody wanted to be us, and now like people are laughing at us, and like now we're losing these games and we're getting blown out. And you still have pride. Like you can't just have your pride based off of wins or losses. So you wear you hold your chin high. You wear your Florida State gear with pride. But like it's so much better being able to back up the trash talk that you do. So you can trash talk, but when your team's not winning, it's kind of hard. But when your team can actually back it up and you see them being successful, like that's what you want. Like you want those players and those coaches to have the same success that you had. I mean, a heartbreaking moment for me is when our bowl streak got broken. Like,
man, it's tough.
like I would not want to be a part of that team. Like I would hate to be known for that. Right, the team that lost, the 40-year bowl streak. Like, that for me is like something that was
And to
very
be out
shocking.
there celebrating first downs when you're down 30 points, that's the shit that got to
Yeah,
me. It's like,
yeah,
God, where's the pride?
yeah. So the outside looking in, because and I mean this in the most respectful way. Like there's some people who's like plugged in, but you don't really know unless you're in it. Like you can have
That's
a
very
lot more
true.
ideas than other people, but like you don't really know the ins and outs. So all we do is we see Taggart, and we see the wins and the losses, and the coaches, and even I think there was a time when like some players was going to social media, and like it was just like we didn't look like a very good program at the time. Like people complaining, guys on social media. We just didn't seem like we didn't have any answers to like what was going on, which is what was like the most disheartening thing. Like if you're going through something and there's a solution, at the end of the day, like you can deal
Preaching,
with
man.
it, but there seemed like there was no solution, and it was just like when does it end for us?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, you're
It
speaking my
was
life story. That's exactly how I felt. But thank goodness we get Mike Norvell. We get Michael Alford. You talked about guys going to social media. Yeah, his first year during COVID and all that stuff, there was still some of that hangover. Luckily, the transfer portal came around. They were able to really flip that thing, and people were able to go find better fits. If they didn't fit, you're able to bring in kind of more like-minded people. And thank goodness they've got this thing up and rolling. You also talked about the football only facility that y'all didn't have an indoor. A lot of that stuff finally showing up. I see somebody
Yeah,
in the comments asked about if it was still going to be the largest continuous brick structure. From what I know, yes, it's going to go back just like it was before on the
yeah.
outside. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
nah.
Oh no. Yeah. Go ahead. You go ahead, Marcus. You go
No, I'm
ahead.
just saying I didn't know the answer to that question, but I'm glad you were able to clear it up.
Yeah, for sure, man. I can't wait to see what that thing looks like. Jimbo Fisher, while you were there, I'm sure you remember every year he was like really banging on the table for that stuff. And it's like you said, it sucks that we had to lose the bowl streak and have that whole scenario where you hit rock bottom to get things to change. But it changed, and here we are. So
Yeah,
I'm sure hyped about where we're at this year,
yeah,
headed
bro.
into 2024. But one of the things we had on the thumbnail here, we've been just kind of going with the flow of the conversation, but I want to get into defensive backs
Oh
here as we
yeah.
head into spring practice, and we can start it out. We'll get into the different positions and what we think about each position, but when you look at the DB room we've currently got, is there a particular guy that reminds you of your game, kind of like some guy that you really kind of are attracted to when you watch the film?
No, I just when I watch guys, I kind of watch them for what they are. I don't really look at guys and I'm like, I wonder how I compare to that guy. I just I kind of watch it, naturally. I like to see guys making plays. I like to see guys having fun. I like to see guys play with energy and playing with that confidence. So when I do watch it, and the further that I get removed from graduating, I'm not gonna say from Florida State. Um, I don't really know. Like I can't name 10 guys from the DB roster, but like seeing guys last year like make plays. Like Jamie was an animal last year. And I don't want to pronounce his last. I mean his name wrong. A is like a Zai or
Uh,
I can't.
Azaria Thomas?
Azaria Thomas.
Thomas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's my favorite DB in the
Yeah,
group.
another guy.
He's a beast.
Who's an animal. So just seeing those guys play, like I enjoy watching them play. I enjoy watching them make plays. But I would probably say those two names probably stood out to me a good amount.
For sure. Conrad Hussey was another one I really liked last year.
Oh yeah, because he can hit.
For sure. For sure. And Patrick Surtain, that's been the big difference there. Have you had any experience? Have you got to talk to Pat or anything like that throughout the years?
No, so I don't know him personally. His name. Like I grew up a Dolphins fan, so Patrick Surtain was, just kind of a big name. And I knew of him because he coached at American Heritage. I believe he coached that.
Yes,
and that's where Tavares McFadden went. So like I knew of him. I knew kind of some of the guys that he produced. But I don't know him personally.
Yeah, he really to have a top 5 DB unit in the nation, that's pretty amazing when you look at it. Mike Lee says Conrad Hussey. Yeah, it seems like, I don't know if Mike's like 30 seconds behind us, but it's like he's almost like he's telepathic, but he's 30 seconds behind. Like we already said it. But no, Conrad Hussey was big. But when you go into the season, really excited. I think you got Azaria Thomas. You already called his name out. I think he's going to be the starter on one side. I think then you look in the middle and you got Conrad Hussey and Shaheem Brown at the safety positions. And then over at the other corner, you got Fentrell Cypress, a dude who was I think first team all ACC at Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes over, and maybe you can speak on this. There's something we do as fans. I don't know if it's because you don't get an all 12 view and it's just kind of how they run the cameras or something. It always seems like that boundary corner, or maybe it's the field corner. Sometimes like one guy gets picked on. It's like for whatever reason, people just always see him in trail technique for whatever reason, and they get a lot of hate. And that's what I see with Fentrell Cypress. Like he had a pretty damn good last year, but he gets a whole lot of hate. I really have a feeling he's going to come out and just explode this year. And, as the secondary gets older around him, really have a year to come out and shine. Like we saw with Jerry and Jones before him. Seven got a lot of hate his first 2 or 3 years here, just to turn out to be an absolute beast this year.
Yeah. I think a lot of guys any given, like you never know, right? You never know what you can guess, like what coverage you're in. You kind of have an idea. But guys are going to give up plays, and I think we also have to understand that. Now, if they're giving up plays because they're doing something wrong, then you feel free to criticize. But some, like the guys that they line up against practice too, right? The guys that line up against practice, they're big recruits. So just sometimes you just end up in that position. Now, as a fan, of course, you don't want to see other teams get a touchdown. You don't want to see other teams get a catch. But that's just kind of like the reality of it. I mean, when Deion Sanders played football, I'm sure he gave up catches. I'm sure he gave up touchdowns. So and I'm not comparing to Deion Sanders. I'm just saying, like, even someone as great as him, had their faults or at some point. So, for young guys like that, I would definitely say, just continue to work and get better. I mean, that's the main thing. Like, making a mistake is okay. It's just not making the same mistake twice. So just trying to fix those. And as long as he is able to see it as an issue, there's some upside to that, right? As long as he's like, whatever the issue is, like I'm working to get better, there's upside to that, So I wouldn't worry too much. I think I trust the coaches because I'm not in the locker room. I'm not the ones recruiting them. So the guys that are on the field, we can have our favorites or our least favorites, but I trust, who's ever out there. And I truly believe like they're out there for a reason. I mean, to be transparent with you, like to be real, like there was a lot of guys that didn't want me on the field, right? And that's just like the reality of it. Like you see the social media, you see the tweets, and there's a lot of people that didn't want me or didn't think that I deserved to play, right? But obviously for my coaches and my teammates, I earned that spot and I earned that respect for a reason. Right. So there's a reason here. There's a different value that different people bring to the team and bring to the game.
Yeah, man, that whole defense, like that 2015 defense gets a little bit, I think was totally underrated, took a lot of flack. I think when you come off of having Jameis Winston and all that, and y'all had Everett Golson, I believe, for that year, y'all brought him in. That was a tough year. Like y'all were on the field a lot. Y'all were kind of depended on, and it was even more so the next couple of years. Toward into Jimbo's time, he's like 48 snaps a game for the offense type thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, no, you're always going to have cold fish out there, but you're absolutely right. Ed Limix asks, what do you think of these new DBs coming in? I'm not sure if he means if there's a specific person, or just kind of the size and the type of guys that Pat's bringing in.
To be completely honest with you, I can't really answer that question because like I don't really like I see the recruits, like I don't really know until they get in the building I see them play. So like you see the highlight tapes and you see them making those plays. But I never really like give them full attention to their getting the building. They're actually playing Florida State football. So I would just say my knowledge on the new DBs coming in, I don't really have too much knowledge on that right now. I'm sorry.
No, it's fair. We talked about it, before the show. There's only so much with these young guys till you get to see them. But that brings us to the spring game. Any chance you'll get to make it down this year, or your coaching duty's gonna keep you up there at home?
I always look to it. I don't know if an exact date came out just yet.
420.
420.
420.
I always try to make it. Like I said, I'm currently living in Maryland. Flying into Tallahassee is not the easiest thing to do. You gotta fly into Jacksonville or fly to Orlando or even Atlanta, depending on where you want to drive from. So like all those things kind of take in play, like factor in to whether I can go or not. But if I can make it, I'm definitely gonna try to.
Facts. If you do get to make it down, I'm sure you've seen Spear Addicts with a bunch of questions. That's Chris Frazier at Spear Addicts Media. Then you got James Coleman, the fullback, Big Game
Yes, sir.
James, and CJ Wilson over at Dope Talk. They get together and do tailgates all the time, so they're going to have a big tailgate. Me and Jen will be there. All kind of your former brothers, or I guess still your brothers, your former teammates and teams, classes before that will be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you do, definitely come see us over there.
Yeah, I will keep y'all posted and let you know if I'm able to make it down.
We have almost made it to an hour, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just going to say I'm going to throw the phone line up here if you guys want to get some questions in while we still have Lamarcus. And go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I get to fly from the Memphis airport to the Tallahassee airport. And if you couldn't find two worse airports to try and get to and from, there you go. They're awful. Nobody flies in and out of Memphis. No direct flights. Nobody flies in and out of Tallahassee. So I could get in a car and it would take me maybe 6 hours to get to Tallahassee. I can get in an airplane and it takes me 9.
Yeah. I mean, other than like obviously traveling for games and maybe on my official visit, I don't think I've ever flown in or out of Tallahassee. Like it's just a hassle. The tickets aren't cheap.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's
So
bad.
if I can find like a convenient route to get there, I definitely will try to make it.
One good thing, one of the big pluses about going to the Big Ten, you're going to be able to, at least on some home or away games, fly to some actual destinations, like fly to LA, fly to Detroit, fly to, whatever these different places are, instead of, if you would have went to SEC, which a lot of people have talked about, you're going to be going to Tuscaloosa and Starkville, and not to hate on those places, but it's a little bit different. It's just a little bit different, a little bit easier that way.
Starkville? I'll hate on Starkville. Have you never been to Starkville?
I don't even know where Starkville is.
It's in Mississippi, and let me tell you, if you've been there one time, it'll be the last time you've ever been there.
It's on a bumpy ass road. I know that. Oh my gosh, them roads up that run north and south in Mississippi, it's tough. It's real tough. You'll be just begging for a Florida road after that.
Yeah, you get to a town where pizza doesn't deliver after 9:30, and look, I'm out. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. There you go. What do you think about our guy DJ Uwe coming to Florida State for 1 year?
Look how he says it. Look how he says it. He says
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, even him at Oregon State, he was a player at Clemson, right? So and he made plays. And he was able to lead Oregon State. So anytime you got a guy like that coming in, like I'm excited, especially with the weapons that he has around him, and in that offense. Like I'm excited. I think he can really help us win some football games. And keep us on track to where we're going and having those 10+ win seasons and having making it to a bowl game and hopefully fighting for a natty next year and winning the whole thing. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Facts. Yeah, I think he got a bad rap at Clemson just because I think he was holding that thing together with glue and I didn't mess my camera all up. With glue and paper mache and everything else. So then he goes out to Oregon State all of a sudden. Man, he's on this team with no offensive line making plays everywhere. I can't wait to see what he does. And Jen is absolutely in love with the young man. She can't wait to see. She's been on him from day one.
He was definitely my pick. I couldn't and I'm so glad I got on that train early. Because hindsight is 2020, right? Hindsight is 2020. I love that kid. I loved his family. I loved from when they were being recruited. I loved everything about him. So the moment that he became available for Florida State, I couldn't think that a better coach like Mike Norvell would just, it's like a match made in heaven. So I'm happy with it. And, and then I have Brock Glenn as the backup. And obviously a Memphis kid. God, I'm happy with the quarterback room. I couldn't be happier. I could not be happier. And by the way, a Memphis kid, that kid's going to be scrappy and he's going to do his work.
So that's what we need. We just need a leader. If he can get in there and command the locker room and he can lead and positively impact the players around him, then that's what we needed the quarterback. And I think if he gives us that, then we're good.
Heck yeah, man. You talk about, you had some up until, Everett Golson, all good on him. He won 10 games. He was pretty good, but you had a pretty dang good line of quarterbacks going from, I guess Christian Ponder was already gone, but you had E.J. Manuel, Jameis Winston, Jacob Coker. Like, you're talking about 2 first-round picks, 2 national champions, like a lot of championships between those 3 guys.
Yeah, I mean, starting, I think we had EJ first when I got there, and then when EJ left, we had Clint Trickett.
That's right. I forget, man. Trickett was fun to watch. He had to be. You got a Trickett story. You got to have a Trickett story. So him or his dad.
Well, I can't tell the stories about his dad on here because they'll shut us down.
We're uncensored, man.
No, I'm just
not too crazy.
So Clint Trickett, the son, was one of the nicest guys I've been around. Like, he was actually one of the first guys that I remember meeting at Florida State. Like, we took a lot of unofficial visits there. And I feel like we always saw him. So like the more we saw him, the more like, personable he came and you build those relationships. So like I think he was an underrated quarterback. Like was he a Jameis Winston or EJ? No, but I think he was very underrated. And I think he played a vital role in the team. Clint Trickett, the coach, or Trickett, the coach. He's very close knit. He's a man. I mean, in my 5 years at Florida State, I might have heard him say 3 words. Like guys outside of his position room, like he don't really interact with. Like, and that's just like he's old school. Like you have to be like the best of the best, or like you have to really, really, really earn his respect.
Marine mentality. Huh?
Yeah. Like he's not going to interact with you because you're a 5-star. He's not, stroking your ego. He's not doing any of that. Like he's a very close-knit guy, but like stay to himself, especially if you like were not in his like position room.
I bet.
I'm sorry, but that Clint Trickett touchdown pass versus Oklahoma, and then watching Rick Trickett's reaction was one of my favorite moments.
That's when he teared up,
long time.
Is that when he teared up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was so good. I loved Clint and I loved Rick Trickett, and I understand that there are some. I'm not going to go there really, but I absolutely adore them. Clint Trickett, wow, I love that kid. I absolutely love that kid.
Really
there
good
was
dude.
Nothing that seriously, that touchdown pass, I don't know that I can ever get over it. That was just amazing. It's just amazing.
No, I agree.
Trickett it matched everything. You see that guy come out there and, you have your preconceived notions, and then when the ball is snapped, gunslinger. You never imagined it. I love seeing him play. I believe it was celiac disease. We couldn't process gluten, so that's why he had so much time gaining weight. But he played like he was 230 pounds and 6'6". It didn't matter. He was just that dude. I really enjoyed him. And just one random EG Everett Golson story. That block he put, I can't remember if it was an end around or whatever the deal was, but he cracked back the defensive end that year. That's probably my favorite memory of Everett Golson that year. That was like it was Georgia Tech. Somebody he just cleaned somebody's clock.
I do remember it was an end around. He kind of stood over him a little bit. I don't remember the opponent, but I do remember that play. So obviously playing against him in 2014, and like him. So late in the game, when I thought we had the game sealed. It was a 4th and 17, or it was just like, and they converted. So like obviously playing against him in that game, and then getting him the following year, I was like, oh man, like we the rich got richer. Because I mean,
people forget about that.
He played a heck of a game, and we did have what year did Jacob? What Coker did? I think did he transfer out that year? And we also had Sean McGuire.
Yeah,
but I was like, man, the rich just got richer. Like we played against this guy, and he was tough as nails, and he was a heck of an athlete. So when we got him, I was like, man, we have a really good chance of getting back to the big dance. Now it ended a little bit differently, but he was definitely someone you would rather be on your team to play against.
Facts. It's crazy.
I kind of liked him. I didn't have the hate or anything about him. I liked him because they were almost the cardiac kids, it was like they were down to NC State, down to Louisville, and then just ruined it and took their hearts out. I love that type of stuff. I'm sorry. But when these loser, lesser than teams in the ACC think they're going to beat Florida State, and then they get so excited, and then you just take it away from them. I love it. That's just me. I'm not an ACC fan, so maybe we could, that's a good transition. What do you think, George?
Yeah, we're about an hour and a minute in here, guys. If you have any questions while we have Lamarcus, the number's up on the screen, 850-495-1906. And again, we appreciate the Rock and Roll Pepper Show. He said if he hits Mega Millions, he's going to put us a billboard out on I-10, and we appreciate that, man. I-10 and I-75. I guess that's where it cuts to go south. But we got to talk about the ACC thing. I'm gonna go on a little rant here, let everybody know where we're at. Feel free to jump in if you have any questions or whatever, but we just got to run through it because that's just what's going on. There's a guy, I believe his name's Bill Farley. He has a Substack website. He did an amazing article. He did like FOIA requests out the ass when it comes to this ACC suit and how they're going to actually finance it. That's kind of like the biggest new information that we haven't really talked about. There's 3 big things that I'd heard of. There's been whispers of, but it hadn't been public now until he did this FOIA request and all that. But I'm sure everybody's seen every single podcast out there basically has done a show, like Chris first and then me and James and everybody. We've all done these shows talking about how it's the Big Ten. There's no question. If you're wondering right now, Florida State, it's the Big Ten. That's the plan. That's what we're predicting. That's what we think. Well, now kind of everybody in the country is on board. All of a sudden, the ACC is dead and Florida State's doing the right thing. And they've got this and they've got that. When for 6 months we were crazy and we were just clickbaiting you guys. And that thing was rock solid. They couldn't beat it. Wasn't ever going to get out. But again, finances, that's the big thing. The ACC came out in this long-ass 151-page report and admitted that, yes, Florida State can buy their way out. And then this guy here did a really amazing article. You really have to go check it out. But there's 3 kind of major things that they're going to do to raise money through private equity and different things. One of them is, you heard about the Saudi money, this and stuff, this kind of stuff. Well, yeah, they're going to talk to firms and stuff like that and set up private equity lines through, those kind of, I don't even know what the right word for it is, money groups and things like that. But another 2 big time things is, I guess they're, and everything's redacted. So you don't know any of the dollars and the cents and stuff, but these are just the things they're going to do to raise money. They've got a big hotel development plan. They're planning to build an on-campus hotel outside of the Tuck Center. That's kind of the least likely one, I guess, or the one that might happen last. Look for them to go out and get that Saudi type equity line, money, whatever you want to call it. But another big one that is tied up into the whole research and AAU part of going to the Big Ten is a medical office building. They're going to be equity partners, basically lease the land to the medical office building for so many years, 40, 50 years. And then those people are going to pay so much money. That's going to be able to money that they're going to be able to show coming in. They're also the same company is going to help finance building the $116 million football only facility. That thing was originally like $80 million, I think is what they talked about. It's on up to $160 million. It's going to be absolutely nuts. And if you want to look into this, you can look up all these FOIA requests. It's called Catalyst Healthcare Real Estate. That's the name of the company. And it breaks down all the different amounts of monies, but there's only so much it shows. It's a lot of that stuff's redacted. But basically, this shit's over with. It's all over. Florida State's out of the ACC. It's just a question of when, and it's becoming more and more, just how soon and how little. I saw on Crane and Company today, they were talking about, they've talked to a lot of people and they've got some pretty good sources in this and that. They're talking 275 to 350 million dollars. But everything from what I've seen, everything I keep reading, there's two dates that matter. It's 2027. That's when the deal we're currently under ends, and then ESPN possibly could run it through to 2036. The $500 million that would have to be raised that everybody's talked about, that's through the 2036. I think basically what's came out with the ACC lately, they're not going to be able to enforce that. 2027 is as far as it's going to go, and that's where me and Jen came up with our number. But I don't know if you've changed anywhere. Has your estimate gone up? I know I just rattled off a bunch of information. You guys are gonna have to rewind it and play back. And I know I butchered it, but go check out that Bill Farley Substack article. And yeah, Jen, what do you think? Are you still in the same place? Have you changed any from all the different stuff you took in and read the last day or two?
So I think the last time we talked, I was maybe at 120. I was just at the exit fee. I think Florida State's gonna make it about 150 and then say, have a good one. I think they're gonna round it up for them. They're gonna make them feel good. They're gonna give Wake Forest maybe some extra McDonald's money, and then say, "Cool, you guys have fun. Go to the playground on us," and like you've been doing for the last 45 years, and then we're good. I think it's going to be, I think that's where I would go right now, because I think Florida State just wants out. I think they want out. I think they want their new conference. I think they want to start negotiating for that. And I also think they're not going to get a partial share in their new conference.
Yeah, and Rodnick says it was a great presentation. I will link it after we get done. I will throw it in the about. Yeah. The description section, because that guy, he really, really did a good job and looked up all the information. I just don't want to screw it up, so I'm not going to get into bringing out any of the numbers. Brad says, will ESECPN block the Big Ten or Fox from broadcasting in South Florida? I don't know. I don't know how they could possibly do that. You'd have to fill me in how they could stop Fox from broadcasting.
So, I
guess I misread that.
Maybe that question is technically because ESPN owns Florida State's rights. Technically they do.
Through 2027. Yeah, but that's the whole. If they did, we would still be in the ACC. So I don't know. I don't think so. I think ESPN is going to step out. They're not going to. What's that? Who said they weren't going to be out of the SEC? Who said they weren't going to be out of the ACC?
I think they're out of the ACC in 2025.
Right, but then ESPN. Once that happens, ESPN will be removed from the equation. Like if we're still doing business with ESPN, we'll still be in the ACC. I guess that's a chance. I guess they could just leave and not get any money for 3 years. I don't see that. They're going to settle and that stuff's going to be taken care of. That's my opinion on that, but we shall see.
I agree.
And I don't know. I guess Spear Addicts is putting up the lottery numbers if y'all want the lottery numbers. Again, guys, the number is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's 850-495-1906. If you have a question for Lamarcus Brutus, speak now or forever hold your peace. We're getting kind of long in the tooth here, an hour and 10 minutes. Now's your chance. This is the questions part of the show. If you have any questions, now's the time to get them. And we sure appreciate you guys, everybody joining us.
So, Lamarcus, do you have a preference or do you even care? You don't care where they go. You're just wanting them to do better.
So because I live in Maryland and I actually live not too far.
Oh, he's ready. He's ready for the Big Ten. He's ready for the Big Ten.
I live not too far from the University of Maryland. So it would be great to see them in person. So I would love to.
I
Selfishly,
kind
I
of
would
love
love
that. I love
if they
that.
played up here because I mean, I it's hard for me to get down there because I coach on Friday nights, coaching high school football. So if I get to not have to travel too far for a Florida State game on a Saturday, I would love that.
Oh, I love that. I'm hoping it's the Big Ten too. I don't have any love for the SEC. I think it's kind of cultish. I don't understand cheering for your rivals. I don't understand any of it. Like it's not in my wheelhouse. In my brain. I don't like the fact that Florida could sit there and cheer for Georgia is wild to me. The fact that Alabama cheers for Auburn, I don't.
No,
It's
nah,
so like you will never, ever, 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 ever catch me cheering for Clemson.
yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I don't. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I root for the ACC." Like, if we don't get it, like I want
Not
somebody else
me.
in the ACC to get it. I'm not like that either. Like, it's Florida State or none. If two other teams are playing, I hope they both lose. Like, I'm
Me too.
Florida State
I
only.
hope a big hole opens up and they both fall in. You're not going to ever catch me cheer for Clemson. I mean, maybe if they played Florida, but again, I'm hoping for that big hole situation to like open up. I'm just not doing. I'm not doing that. I'm not cheering for my rival. It's uh, that we're not going to fit in the SEC. I don't care what anybody says. But I have gotten some bad information today that I don't like.
What's
I
that
do
now?
think the SEC. I think the SEC is making a move here. I don't
Well,
want to go to
spill
the
the
SEC.
beans. You said you didn't have anything.
No, I said I did get some information that I don't like. I said I think the SEC they're going to play defense here. Um, I'm not hearing a full share from the SEC yet. I do think that's the way it's going to go, and I think Florida State has all the leverage, and they're going to decide which conference they get to go to at this point.
Facts. I hear you.
That's just
Sonia has a good question here. We want to give you a chance. She says, "What's your high school team?" If you want to share, did you want to maybe brag on some of your guys? You got some special seniors, or just anything you want to talk about with your coaching position?
So I currently coach defensive backs at Damascus High School up in the Maryland area. We actually won, so not this past season, but the year before, we actually won a 3A state championship. So I got my first ring as a coach, which was pretty excited. And then so we lost second round of the playoffs last year, but we do got some guys coming up. Some young guys. I coach defensive back, so obviously trying to get young guys to get recruited. As much as I can. I don't work actually in the high school. I work at a middle school. So I'm not usually around when like the other coaches and everything come around. At one point, the
Right.
school was like really highly recruited. Actually, a Clemson guy, Brian Brzee, is the high school that he went to. So
No, I've heard
it
that
was
name.
a big recruited area at that high school. So obviously, if anyone's in the Maryland area and want to come check us out, feel free to come check us out.
Do you have
absolutely.
any ambitions to take it to the next level, possibly, or?
I've thought about it. Obviously, like coaching college football is a grind. Just from like my experience of being in there and just seeing like Jimbo and all the other coaches who put in so much time like at the facility. There was Charles Kelly. I think at one point in time it hit home for us. I think it was like either during camp or it was something that he was kind of sharing with us, and he would just mention how like I haven't seen my kids in, a week. And like, yes, I go home, but like by the time I get home, they're asleep. And by the time I leave in the morning, they're asleep. And like and I have a wife, I don't have any kids yet. But like to me, I'm very I really enjoy what I do. I enjoy teaching middle school. I enjoy interacting with the kids. I enjoy coaching high school. So for me, that hasn't really been a priority because all the time that you do have to put in, um, takes a lot away from family, and then just like the revolving door of coaches, like you can put your all into something, and next thing you know you're out on the street. Like there's no really like job security. So for me, it hasn't been worth it, at least as of yet, to make that leap, to try to get it to that next level.
Yeah, it's definitely it's not for the faint of heart. You know, if you're gonna go, you got to be all in with it. One of those things. So I definitely feel you there. But maybe one day we'll keep an eye out.
Yeah,
And I know they're lucky to have a hell of a DB coach right there.
Well, thank
for
you. I
now.
appreciate it. Yeah, I say that. I
Probably
say
the
that
best
now.
one
But
they could get. Absolutely. That's
Thank you.
crazy. That's crazy. I can't even imagine, like, if I had I mean, I do have children, but they're younger. But if they're like, oh, hey, my coach is Lamarcus Brutus, I'd be like, okay, well, that's what you're going to play, and that's what you're going to do. Like, that's
Yeah,
just
no.
so cool. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
I enjoy it. I don't know if my players think it's as cool because I yell at them and I'm very hard on them, but it's definitely enjoyable. I mean, it's something I definitely enjoy, like being away from the game as far as like a player. Coaching allows me to be around the game, and still like not have to miss it. I think a lot of guys who quit playing football before their time is up or before they believe their time is up, they spend a long time chasing it and trying to fill that void. But for me, like once my playing days were over and I had my opportunity, signing that free agent deal, and then I played with the Alliance of American Football League for a little bit. And then once that window closed, like I really became like, I'm okay, I'm at peace, and I still get to be around the game. I still get to put my cleats on and demonstrate drills here and there. So I still enjoy it, and it's something that I've really been loving the past few years.
That's a beautiful thing.
Love
You have a
that.
kid, they try you every once in a while. They want to see if coach has still got it or what.
Every now and then they have to, like, you gotta prove it. Like, you're teaching me to play it this way. Can you play it this way? So every now and then, but I tell them you get one rep. I'm not gonna be like, you get one rep from me, and then if you lose that rep, you gotta live with that forever. So every now and then I like to demonstrate to show like, hey, I'm not just talking. I've actually done it, or like I've been around great coaches. I've been underneath Mark Stoops and Charles Kelly and Jeremy Pruitt, and then even when I signed my free agent deal with the Titans, like being around Dick LeBeau, like I've been around some great names.
Oh, I forgot he had come there from Tennessee at that point in time. That's awesome.
So being able to share that knowledge and pass it along is like the part of it that I really enjoy.
That's so cool.
Absolutely. Now, what was that? What was that experience like? Do you have any stories or anything you want to share about that, or being in Tennessee?
I mean, I enjoyed it. Like a kid who, for me, like started playing football at 10 years old. Like the ultimate dream was to make it to the NFL, right? Like you see all your favorite athletes, you see all your favorite players, and you're like, I want to be there. And then you just love the game so much, you always hope to have that dream. So even like sign a free agent deal with the Tennessee Titans and have a team that believes in you or gives you a shot, no matter how long it was, is something that like I definitely don't take for granted. Like it's one of those things. Like again, there's so many guys who've never stepped foot inside an NFL locker room. There's so many guys who've never had their name on the back of an NFL jersey. There's so many guys that never played on an NFL field. And even though mine was short lived, through the preseason, it's something that I don't take for granted, and it's something that I'll cherish forever.
Facts, man. I don't think you could say it any better than that. I'm from Milton, a little town called Milton, Florida. You a Cortland Finnegan fan? I think he might have been gone from Tennessee by the time you got there.
Yeah, he wasn't there. I do know of him, not for for that situation with Andre Johnson. I do.
Seems like that's what everybody else knows.
But I mean, I knew of him before then. Played cornerback. Like he was a good guy, a good player. I don't know him personally, but he was not there when I got there. They had drafted Kevin Byard that year. Devin McCourty was there. What was that? They had a few other guys. Derrick Henry got there that year. So they had a few bigger name guys.
Yeah, I just think Chris Hope, Chris Johnson. It's like I'm stuck in the early 2010s with the Titans because that's when I was big into watching them. But yeah, you just missed that whole group.
For me, one of the bigger name guys. So I grew up a Miami Dolphins fan. And I don't know if the name like Anthony Fasano like rings a bell.
Tight end?
Played tight end. Yeah.
Yep.
Played tight end
Oh,
for the
yeah.
Dolphins for a long time. And he was actually on the team when I got there. And to me, like I'm watching the Dolphins as I'm, 10, 11, 12, 15 years old. So like to get to the locker room and he still be there, for me, I was like, man, I used to watch you, on TV. And then they actually signed Andre Johnson. So seeing him was pretty cool.
That's so weird too that they ever signed him. Oh gosh, all those battles with the Titans and the Texans.
DeMarco Murray was there when I got there, which was which was kind of so like seeing those big name guys, and was a kind of pretty like surreal moment for me.
I imagine if people have never been to an NFL game, it's really a different thing. NFL and NBA are both the same. Like if you watch it on TV, or you go to a college or even a high school game, like you can kind of get it, but it's like they're on fast forward or something. It's just really
Yeah,
the speed of the game is super, super intense. I couldn't imagine
yeah,
being out there. I couldn't imagine.
Look, the Titan Stadium is beautiful. I've been to a couple Titans games, and I actually went to a Florida State bowl game at the Music City Bowl versus Kentucky, which we lost, which was ugh.
right.
It was terrible. Kentucky fans actually threw a beer at a 12-year. She looked like she was in between 10 to 13-year-old girl in a Florida State shirt. I've never been around worse football fans than Kentucky fans. That's my rule right now. It's Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yep. I didn't know they were actually that serious about football. That was a surprise. That was nice. So,
Yeah, thankfully, we've never had anyone throw a beer can at me. Been in these other stadiums.
You see it from
Lord,
time to
oh,
time.
really?
Thankfully, us
I
Florida
mean,
State fans, we don't do that stuff. But you
like
had to go to Miami
Miami,
twice, so
yeah, Miami
lucky to have
fans
avoided it there.
love to throw trash on the field. I mean, I guess maybe they just want to throw the trash, and I don't know. Maybe it makes them feel good about their team. Like, I don't know, comparable things. Like, I don't know. Not my money, not my bag. I didn't call them trash. I was just saying, you're throwing trash at people.
All right, guys, we're getting really, really thin in the tooth here. We probably got another 10 minutes for you guys, if that. We'll probably call this one an hour and a half. Angelo Smith has another question coming in here. Says, do you think if Pruitt stays for the 2014 season, FSU wins it all again? I have a feeling how you're going to answer this one, but we'll indulge Angelo.
That's a good question.
I love that question.
I think it's hard to really say, because you lose a lot of pieces from that 2013 national championship team. So you lose a lot of pieces that you got guys from that 2013 roster, like that picture that floats around, all those starters and all offense and defense who are in the NFL. I think because we made it as far as we did, like you can never really look back and say what the missing piece was of losing the game. Like there's so many different factors in that play into like winning the game or winning like winning the game or winning the championship. So it's hard to say, but I definitely think because we still ran a similar defense, like the defense that he had when he was there, that we ran when he was there. We still ran that similar defense. Our pieces was just a little bit different. So I think it's a good chance. You just never really know.
Facts. Unfortunately, you never get to go back and run those simulations. It's fun. It's like trying to talk to LeBron, Jordan. Same thing. You're never going to see them both in their primes.
That's not the same thing.
Jordan's
better.
Those guys are gone.
Look, we're not doing the Jordan LeBron talk. Jordan is the GOAT, and LeBron is second. Like, come on.
If you look, here we go. I guess apparently you want to have it.
Mine's a little bit different. So
we might as well do this. Let's do it.
When I was growing up, and I'm not taking anything away from Michael Jordan, not taking anything away from LeBron James. When I was growing up, and who I believe is the greatest basketball player of all time is Kobe
If you're going to
Bryant.
say Penny Hardaway, I agree with you.
No, actually, my first favorite basketball player actually was Penny Hardaway when he played for the Orlando Magic. But I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan.
I agree.
What could have been? It could have been Penny and Shaq instead of Kobe and Shaq.
Yeah, it could have been. So I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan. Is LeBron is LeBron and MJ one of the best athletes that I've ever seen on the basketball court? Like, for sure. But at the time when my era was watching, I only remember Michael Jordan in live when he was on the Wizards, which is not a fair assessment of his ability. Everything I watch now, obviously I gotta go look at tapes and highlight tapes and film, but I was able to watch Kobe, all my years growing up. So for me, he is my GOAT of basketball.
That's fair. I've got several friends like that. One of my better friends, he's a Kobe freak, and it's the same thing. I mean, that's who we saw one win the most championships. It was Kobe.
Absolutely. I mean,
So,
obviously,
that's fair.
mine is. I think everybody knows it's Penny Hardaway. But I, and it's Michael. It's Michael Jordan. It's Penny Hardaway. It's Shaq. It's Kobe. There's so many. But yeah, for me, it's Penny Hardaway. But if I had to pick the GOAT right now, I would say Michael Jordan because I've never seen anything like it. Never.
Yeah, he definitely stood out.
Understandable.
Stood out 6 in a row. Well, not quite. He took a year off, but that just adds to it.
The reason I say this about Michael Jordan, I say this about Tom Brady, is they made players around them better. And for me, that's huge.
God.
That makes
Did Jordan make the players around him better? They went to the NBA Finals without him. Didn't they?
Scottie Pippen?
Yeah, he was the MVP the 1 year Jordan didn't play. Or runner-up.
Okay. Really? Are we gonna
That's why this is so fun. You're the one that wants to do it. But no, I'm just kidding. We can this is the first ever basketball debate we've had on the show. Angelo Smith says
Steve Kerr, he made Steve Kerr better.
Right.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, Steve Kerr,
like
the point guard.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm not hating on. I think Jordan's the GOAT. I think Jordan's the GOAT. I agree with that. But as far as making people better, yeah, he raised everybody's. He did raise everybody's intensity and stuff. But
absolutely,
what his team did without him, when you put it in comparison with all the other people, it's like, there's not really a comparison in that one specific area, because the dude was like legit when Jordan wasn't there. Pippen was. Like, he almost won the MVP. He was number 2, and they were a pretty damn good team. But he is the GOAT. Like, I'm not here to argue that, but I'll give him that. Anyways, on back to Florida State.
He'll give him that. He says you'll give Michael Jordan that little benefit of the doubt.
What are you on? Get it off your chest. You're sitting here talking about Penny Hardaway.
I do love me some Penny.
I think it's eras, and we got us a caller. We got Chris Frazier. Maybe he's gonna weigh in on the basketball debate. You're live on the Renegade Rundown. What you got, Chris?
Hey, y'all know usually I can't talk about nothing Florida State when y'all start bringing up who the GOAT is of the NBA. I gave y'all my order: MJ, Kobe, then LeBron, then AI. But the only argument that you have for LeBron is that what Kobe and Michael both had in comparisons to what LeBron had. It's kind of simple. Both of them had Phil Jackson as a head coach. LeBron's never had a head coach of the stature of Phil Jackson. So the argument is the argument. But
isn't that Jordan, because LeBron demands his own coach?
Kobe, I give them a slight edge over LeBron just based off of, we're going to use who was it? What Cam Newton said. Michael and Kobe to me are game changers. Not that LeBron's not. But LeBron, if you go watching back in high school, the 4 kids that he played with, which you can go
I agree 100%. Yep.
He bounced off of. He uses everybody on the court because everybody should do their job. Michael and Kobe, when people didn't want to do their job or they were lack thereof, they just took the game over. AI, probably one of the greatest talents that was on the court, especially for the size. But Kobe had Shaq. Jordan had Pippen. Then there's another argument for LeBron. So I get where people come from when you say LeBron, but I don't like people skipping over Kobe Bryant, because to me it's always been Michael, Kobe, back and forth, and then those two arguments can go back and forth forever. But I see where people come from with LeBron. Think he's a great athlete, but Michael and Kobe, yeah, and Penny Hardaway, that's what could have been.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have anything for Lamarcus on FSU before we get out of here? You're probably our last caller.
Yeah, my only question, Lamarcus, with the 3 different defensive coordinators that you got to play under, who was the most intense in your eyes?
I would probably say the most intense, like the most pressure is probably Jeremy Pruitt. I think coming from Alabama and having the resume that he had, and I seen there was a comment in the section that said like he was his in game adjustments was fantastic, like amazing, and I would probably say he was the most intense. I think actually Charles Kelly is a close second. I think Mark Stoops is probably like the most laid back and chillest in that aspect. But if I had to choose one, I would probably say Jeremy Pruitt. I think the standards and the expectations were there, but in a good way. I think we all fed off each other. We all understood like what he was trying to implement, and we knew he knew how to win. So we just had to like buy in and give our all, and get us to where we needed to go.
Man, I agree with everybody wanting him to stay and everything you said. Like I feel like you rushed it. I feel like if you could have just sat around, a little bit longer, how his kind of career flamed out there at the end. But when it came to his mind as far as defense and making adjustments, I love Pruitt. And I was one of those guys that was screaming for wanting to run that type of defense for years. Like, even though as much as I loved Stoops, I wanted to see that defense. I wanted I wanted to see that Bama style defense that dominated college football for so long. And it was fun. It was only 1 year, but it was a lot of fun seeing it in action. But Jen, did you have anything before we got out of here? Any questions?
No, I love Jeremy Pruitt too. I don't think he was allowed to stay. I think that was a whole thing. I'm not going to get into any more than that, but I think he could have been such a good coach. He could have been such a good head coach. I don't understand why it all went wrong, but it did go wrong. And if you ever want to come back, if Adam Fuller ever leaves, I'm sure we'll take it. Please, God, just bring that defense back. Like, let's get back there. Okay. If Adam Fuller ever leaves, but please, maybe not leave for right now.
I was
but
selfishly for me, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Please cut me off.
Selfishly for me, Pruitt leaving gave me a better opportunity. Like to play.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So like him bringing in guys like Nate Andrews, Jalen Ramsey, I think Marquez White was in their class as well. So just like bringing in all those different guys, like you bring in your guys, and I understand it and I respect it. And I, being transparent, like I was not one of Pruitt guys, right?
That had to be tough, like a Nate Andrews. Like I love Nate Andrews, but that makes sense for a dude to come in as a freshman, like you said, be one of his guys to get those snaps. That had to be.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So like
wow.
you sit back and you grind and you wait your turn, and then when you feel like your turn is finally there, you don't really get your turn. So like then when Charles Kelly became the DC, and I felt like I truly had a fair shot, and I was putting in the work in the offseason. I had made those plays like late in 2014 at the end of the season, which kind of gave me that jump start into that 2015 season. But I feel like I was truly given a chance in my production at practice and in the spring was like actually being like rewarded. So like selfishly for me, in my career at Florida State, Pruitt leaving probably was like one of the better situations for me.
Okay, I love that response. I absolutely would love that response because sometimes we don't think about that. Sometimes we don't think about all those different scenarios that could happen. And honestly, you're so good. You are so good. Like, I don't know why that would have been a problem for Jeremy Pruitt, except for I know he loved to chase stars, right? So he loved chasing stars. He loved to put money. You know what? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. But what I'm going to say is that I just feel like, wow, that's amazing. And Charles Kelly was a big influence for you.
He was. And I give a lot of, I mean, even outside of football, like we would have conversations and, even during the holidays, like all the coaches, typically like Thanksgiving, we don't get to go home, but like all the coaches will like invite their position guys over to their house. And I got to build a relationship with his wife and with his daughter. So like, and he really was like, we talked outside of football. We talked about real life. He was the same from day one. So he really was a big influence for me. Someone that I definitely don't take for granted. We still communicate every now and then. Like to this day, like I'll follow him like, him being at Colorado, him being back at Auburn. So I'll follow kind of like what he has going on. But yeah, I feel like, not a lot of guys can have anything negative to say about him. Like, if you're judging him as a coach and you're comparing him to Pruitt and his in-game adjustments, like, is it going to be the same? No. But I think you can't question his integrity and his love for the game and love for his players.
Yeah, I have to tell you, do you remember the Showtime show that we had like during the season? I think it was Charles Kelly's maybe last year. Was that 2014 or was that 2015? Does anybody remember?
That show was 2016.
Yeah.
Was
I
it?
was gone.
Year after he was gone.
Oh, you were gone. So I was sitting there watching it and looking at Charles Kelly, just interacting with the players, looking at his family, looking at everything and knowing what the fans are saying. And I'm going, oh, it's kind of hurting my feelings because like he really seems like he's so connected to these players. And that's really amazing. I love that. That was a good experience for you. I'm glad you had it. But yeah, I never really thought about that, about coaches leaving that would bring up other people because yeah, you're right. Another guy is a coach's guy, right? Like, and coaches are just as biased as the rest of us are or can be. So none of us are perfect.
And you got to do your job of like making plays, but understand like, I got there in 2011, Pruitt gets there in 13. I'm 2 years, like, he just comes into a room of guys that's been there. You recruit your guys who you originally had in Alabama. So, and I don't fault him for having his guys. I think everybody has their guys. But I feel like, like how I mentioned earlier, how some guys kind of get lost in that shuffle because, you look at a roster, you say, well, I wonder why this guy's not playing, and I wonder why this guy's not playing. If the defensive coordinator changed, like you just never really know the situation. So, but everything worked out how it was supposed to. I mean, I can't knock it. It made me a better person. It made me a better player. Just being around guys and going through adversity together, it made us that much closer. So I definitely appreciate, like I said, I test like a lot of my football knowledge to that fire zone man match defense that he brought to Florida State that I teach to my players nowadays. So him being there definitely benefited me. But as far as like my playing time in my career and getting that fair opportunity, I feel like I got a better one with Charles Kelly.
That's awesome.
Beautiful, man. You brought some beautiful insight. We really appreciate it, man. It was such an honor to have you on. Just know you got an open invitation anytime you ever want to come back on. You're more than welcome. The fans were great. Thank you for everybody in the comments and the chat. I've been a little all over the place, but man, it's just awesome. We're living a dream out here just talking FSU football. We get to talk to some awesome people, and I get to piss Jen off and mess with her all night. It's like we just try to have fun.
Well, I definitely appreciate you both like reaching out and having me on here. I definitely appreciate all of the Florida State fans that tuned in. I mean, we all have a love for the same thing. We all want success for the same thing. I'm lucky. I would love to see like the next guys that y'all have on here. And I know you said you had like Carlos and all those other guys, and it'd be good to hear some other voices and see my other teammates get to share their side of the story as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. We had so much fun, and thank you again.
Almost said something nasty, but no, that was super sweet. Jen's over there blushing. I'm over here blushing. Thanks for being so great. Thanks for being you. And we're going to throw your boy on. We like to end the show this way. I made this like as the trailer for the episode when he came on. I don't know if you heard that Trub Life song when we got left out of the playoffs, but we'll leave with that and some Carlos highlights.
The road tide. Fuck Tuscaloosa in every city that's close by. Bitch ass hillbilly redneck fans. Auburn almost caught y'all slacking like dress hands. Michigan trash, they ain't got a damn chance. Only Wolverine I respect is X-Man. Keen ass coach got exposed, still in plays. Damn right I'm bitter, y'all sweeter than lemonade. Texas ain't shit to rave about. The